Since the 401k first came into existence in the early 1980s, it's become the retirement plan of choice for all companies, big and small. Today, there's over $3.5 trillion in 401k plans, and really they're the largest profit center, one of them, for major insurance, payroll, and Wall Street firms. So by now, you'd think with decades of compounding, those baby boomers would be financially set. But we all know that's far from the truth. Why? Because there's a hole in your investment bucket, and it's draining your financial future. What is it? Well, Vanguard's founder, John Bogle, who's been one of the most respected investment professionals for almost 60 years, calls the problem the tyranny of compounding fees. Your fees are eating you alive. Ironically, according to a recent study by the AARP, 8 out of 10 people don't know the cost of their plan, and 70% of those participants believe they're actually paying no investment costs for the 401k. The startling truth is that you couldn't be further from the truth. 10 to 15 times more can be spent by one person compared to their neighbor right next door for the same fundamental product with no additional value. Now you gotta say, how is that possible? Well, so much of what you pay is buried in the fine print. The language is so confusing, it almost requires a foreign language to understand. Revenue sharing, expense ratios, wrap fees, soft dollar costs, transaction costs, account charges, redemption fees, deferred sales charges. There are more than 17 total fees that can be stacked up, all in that fine print. Consider this. Most plans are constructed by actively managed mutual funds. In other words, these are people, they're funds that are trying to beat the stock market. But in the last 10 years, only 4% of all the 8,500 plus mutual funds have ever been able to beat the market. And in any 10-year period, it's a different 4%. That means 96% of them failed. And if you look at the numbers over the last 15 years, it's the same 96%. Different people, same ratio. So think about this. Mutual funds really have an average expense ratio today of 1.5% or higher. Compare that to a plan that was constructed with low-cost index funds that match the market. So they're 96% more effective than virtually all of the mutual funds, but the average expense is 0.14. That's 14 basis points. If you heard those numbers and it's confusing, think of it this way. If you're investing $100 in a fund like that, it costs you 14 cents. On the average fund, it's $1.50. That doesn't sound like that, but it's 1,000% difference in fees, and those fees compound every year as you reinvest. See, ignorance is not bliss, and what you don't know in the financial area will hurt you. A Forbes recent article says that the total cost on average is 3.1%, while some of these funds are as much as 4.6%. So what does it mean to you? How much of an impact do fees really have on your future? People have no sense of the reality. According to Bloomberg, if you have a lifetime of investing, you can say basically goodbye to half of your investment nest egg in fees. John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, again, is even more direct. He says, imagine that you're in a business where you put up all the money, you take all the risk. If you lose, you lose. But your investment partner, the person just handling the funds for you, gets up to 70% of your profits over the lifetime of your investing. See, minimizing fees could mean the difference between ability to retire or not. It could save you, by minimizing fees, a full decade. You retire a full decade sooner. I'll give you an example. Take two neighbors. Let's say they both are side by side, live on the same street. One is in an average fund at 3.1% that Forbes talks about, and one is in a low-cost fund, the best possible, 0.414, the 14 basis points. What's the impact? Well, if they invest $5,000 a year, every year, they get an 8% return over their investment lifetime. One ends up with $1.4 million. The other is $619,000. That's 100% difference.
Your 401k fees are eating you alive. So much of what you pay is buried in the fine print. Revenue sharing, expense ratio, wrap fees, soft dollar cost, transaction cost, account charges, redemption fees, fees that can be stacked up all in the fine print. Consider a life policy that is guaranteed to pay out with no loss, and you can access it at any time. And best of all, it's tax-free. Please text number 12330-573496, and I will reach out as soon as possible. Thank you so much, and God bless. Please text the number 12330-577-3496, and I will reach out to you as soon as possible, and I will find you the best policy that fits your need. Thank you again, and God bless you.